The Ninjago love triangle are words that unfortunately exist in the same sentence. I'm not gonna be a generic angry fan and be like, oh, I hate the love triangle, worst part of the show. But, like, in all honesty, guys, I kind of hate it. What I will say for the record is that Cole is one of my all-time favorite characters, and Jay and Nia are one of my all-time favorite ships. From this information, you can likely deduce that the love triangle is not one of my favorite things we've ever received. No, look, I hate it. I hate it with a passion. But as much as I want to shove it into a corner and pretend it didn't happen, it did happen. So while I may not have the power to rewrite reality, the least I can do is overanalyze until I can somewhat come to terms with said reality. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So first off, let's do a basic recap of events. Jay and Nia first got together in Rise of the Snakes when Jay asked her on a date, and they ended up getting attacked by a serpentine army who strapped Nia onto a roller coaster, and then Jay had to rescue her from the impending ring of fire. Because this show is amazing and I love it. They dated for a while after that and overall seemed pretty happy together. So obviously it made perfect sense when in season 3 we learn that Nia is actually sick of his company and they have the most dysfunctional relationship on the planet, and it's only being revealed to us now because plot. Then one day, while they're on a field trip with the school they apparently teach at now, Nia decides to take a perfect match test to learn who her true love is. And it turns out that person is Cole, apparently. Nia, being the smart and sensible person that she is, decides to listen to the random metal box that she used in Borg Tower on the same day that it got corrupted. So she returns home and starts hitting on Cole.
Weirdo.
Jay is not pleased. After learning that Nia and Cole are allegedly a perfect match, Jay makes a very mature decision and football slams Cole headfirst into the floor. He doesn't stop to think, oh, maybe I should talk to Nia, maybe I should get some clarifying details. No, he tackles him to the ground. Cole, feeling rightfully affronted, decides to defend himself from the imminent peril he has been placed in, which both Jay and Nia interpret as him competing for Nia or something.
What?
And so ensues a series of plot-related drama, which ultimately ends in them realizing this whole thing has been stupid, so they cut ties and never speak again. No one gets together, everyone is lonely, and they all lived happily ever after, the end. Until Skybound, when Jay and Nia got back together. Okay, so as much as I love making fun of Rebooted because it is just absolutely outlandish, there are some genuine things that I think can be drawn from this, mainly surrounding the characters and their motivations, like what was going on in their heads throughout all of this. So when you look at the love triangle, you've of course got 3 main perspectives to look at, those being Jay, Nia, and Cole. What should go without saying is they all did some stuff wrong. A lot of the blame gets pinned on Jay because of his reaction, which I'll admit was quite extreme. But then this altercation wouldn't have happened if Cole had shut Nia down when she first showed interest in him, which he didn't, even though he knew full well that she and Jay were together. He just kind of sat there and did nothing. But it'd be wrong to put all the blame on Cole because of course Nia was the one who decided to essentially cheat on Jay in the first place. So let's make that our first point of inquiry. Why did Nia decide to be stupid? So before I slander her too harshly, we do have to step back and look at who Nia actually is. 'Cause she's not had the easiest life. Her parents disappeared when she was 3, leaving her and Kai to basically raise themselves. And that's pretty much all we know in terms of their childhood. But it's not hard to assume they would have grown up fairly isolated as a result. Especially considering how protective Kai is over her, I doubt Nia would have had much interaction with other people her age. Then one day they join the ninja team and it's a complete shift in dynamic. They spend however many years on their own, but then suddenly they're surrounded by a whole group of other people. Just getting by socially has gotta be a whole task in of itself. So it should go without saying that an actual romantic relationship is not something Nia's properly equipped for. Pair that with someone like Jay, who's young and quite emotionally volatile, and you've got a recipe for disaster. I can understand her mishandling of some things, like how she never actually split up with Jay before dragging Cole into this whole mess. Because realistically, how would she have known any better? This doesn't justify her actions, it's just an explanation as to why she handled things so poorly. But then I do have another question, which is why was she interested in Cole in the first place? As far as Rebooted shows us, she only liked Cole because the magic box told her she should. I mean, she basically took a BuzzFeed quiz and was like, oh, time to alter my life plans, I guess. Which feels pretty out of character. Nia's whole thing in the earlier seasons is independence and not living under anyone's control. So why is she so eager to go along with this random machine? I don't think she would be. Unless the machine told her what she already wanted to hear. Let's backtrack a little and think about the effects of her childhood. Imagine being that age and then one day your parents just disappear. How traumatizing must that be? Never knowing why you were abandoned, not knowing if it was your fault or if you could have done something differently. Then imagine spending all that time alone, no one coming to help you. That's gotta have a lasting impact. Both Kai and Nia are shown to want to be in control of things. With Kai it's more physical, like his powers, how he freaks out when they get taken away, or March of the Oni when he tries to turn the ship around to rescue Cole, or Possession when he's trying to lead the team. But for Nia, it presents more in her relationships with others. From as early as season 1, when she doesn't tell anyone that she's Samurai X, so there won't be any restrictions placed on that, to as late as season Seabound, the C one, when she's angry that Maya has a level of control over her. So when Jay first shows interest in her, it makes sense that her first response would be yes. She spent so much time alone, but now here's someone who cares about her, who she can trust, who's willing to dedicate time to her. But then as time goes on, that attachment to Jay starts feeling like an area where she lacks control. Jay is a very outwardly emotional kind of person, and he's also very clingy. Nia's a lot more introverted, she needs space to herself. And she hates feeling chained down in any situation, be that a physical thing like combat or a more conceptual thing like a relationship with someone. So even if she does have feelings for Jay, this relationship was never gonna work at this stage of them knowing each other. It's like a right person, wrong time kind of deal. So from this, you can kind of gather why the idea of Cole is so appealing to Nia. Because he's also pretty introverted. He doesn't demand the constant attention that Jay does. He's a lot more laid back.
Jay's the only one who makes me laugh, but Cole's not Jay.
The idea of being with Cole offers Nia a nice medium. She still gets that feeling of value that she does with Jay, but she's no longer constantly tethered down by that relationship. I'm not saying that this is a good thought process. Don't do this in real life, guys. I'm just saying I can see why Nia gravitated to Cole. The only slight problem with her plan is that Cole does not feel the same way about her at all. I know because Twitter said so. I honestly don't have much to say about Cole other than he probably should have communicated this to Nia instead of awkwardly sitting there. But like, talking is scary, bro. So when someone you value as a friend starts all but professing their love for you, how do you politely shatter their soul? Like, it's difficult, man. No, I can empathize with Cole for sure. I'm not saying he did the right thing because he didn't, but like, I can empathize. As for why he fought with Jay, it's gotta sting losing two of his closest friends over something that really wasn't his fault. When Jay immediately jumps to conclusions and accuses him, he feels hurt, so he defends himself. He was never actually interested in Nia, he was just upset at losing Jay as a friend.
Lower my guard by pretending to be my friend, then swoop in to steal the prize! Typical Cole maneuver! I never meant to hurt you, Jay. If I knew it would destroy our friendship, I'd take it all back.
Which brings us to our final victim, Jay. I'm just gonna say it right now, Jay is extremely insecure. He learns that Cole might potentially be a better match for Nia, and his first response is physical violence. Now, once again, I'm not trying to justify this because this was very irrational, but I can kind of understand where he's coming from. It's no surprise to me that Jay feels overshadowed by the other ninja. Not really in terms of skill, but in personality, sort of. You've got Cole and Zane, who are both more stoic, I guess you could say, more put together. But then there's Jay, who's just a bundle of chaos. He's super geeky, he has a lot of niche interests. There's a scene in Skybound which demonstrates this contrast, where these fangirls are getting interviewed about who their favorite ninja is, and Kai and Cole both get described in some interesting ways.
I like Kai. He's like so hot. I like Cole. I mean, he's a ghost. You want him, but you can't have him.
But then there's Jay.
Jay, he is so funny and cute. I like Cole.
Like, you can see the difference, right? And you can imagine how Jay might internalize these differences as a feeling of inferiority. And then also what Skybound shows more directly is his background. He doesn't come from that much wealth, and he feels like Nia might dislike him for that. Insecurities, that's what I'm getting at. So if you're in that mindset that Jay's in, asking someone out has gotta be very nerve-wracking, so the fact that Nia says yes, like, that's gonna be a victory for sure. In Nia, Jay finds someone who likes him for who he is, who makes him feel good about himself. And she chose him over Cole, who Jay keeps comparing himself to. And this could explain why Jay is so particularly attached to Nia, because she's that affirmation. Once again, not justifying the behavior, just explaining it. So then imagine how he feels when Nia basically dumps him for Cole. He feels bad about himself, so he takes it out on everyone around him. It's not until Skybound when he learns to like himself versus wishing parts of himself away. So for the duration of Rebooted, he comes across as a self-entitled jerk. Just as Nia comes across as a dumb, love-struck teenager, Rebooted is just a character butcher shop at the end of the day. So having taken all perspectives into account, is the love triangle good or bad? Well, that's still a loaded question. While I don't think any of the character behavior is inexcusable, we still do have to look at one major thing. Was this intentional? As in, is any of the characterization that I just went through actually what the writers had in mind? I'm not a Ninjago writer, so I don't know, don't quote me on any of this, but I get the feeling that it wasn't. It feels a lot more like they tried to approach things through almost like a feminist-type lens, which is hilarious because of how poorly that was done. They kept making the point that Nia wasn't gonna define herself by her relationships with men or whatever, but then it completely defeats the purpose because the entire plot is her relationships with two guys. Like, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak on this too much, but it just felt a little weird. There were also some genuinely bizarre lines of dialogue.
Like all boys, You can be reprogrammed.
What? I don't know, guys. This whole thing is a mess. Overall, was the love triangle necessary? Yes and no. Yes, in that it set up Jay's character arc in Skybound, which I actually thought was pretty good. But no, as in it also just wasn't really needed. We could have had any other problem come between Jay and Nia instead of roping Cole into this mess of a character assassination. But then you could argue that Jay and Cole wouldn't have as close a friendship nowadays without the love triangle. Like, I don't know. Ultimately, was it pretty stupid? Yeah. But am I gonna villainize any of the characters for it? No, I'm not. It happened, it was a train wreck, but I think it's been cleaned up okay. Like I said, Jay and Nia are one of my favorite ships of all time now, so they must have done something right. And as much as I love making fun of stuff, I'm not gonna actively spend all my time making fun of the show's less than optimal elements. Because I love this show, and while it's had its ups and downs, it's kept me around for many years, so that has to say something. So, everything considered, do I still hate the love triangle? Yes.